Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cinema Spoilers with Zipp and Cam. My name is Bell-Kanapaux. I'm a 22-year-old author and my co-host is Cam.
Hi, I'm Cam. I watch movies with Zipp.
And I have one quick announcement before we begin this episode. My book, Double Feature, which focuses on individuals who are trapped in a movie theater after an oil-filled explosion, comes out on October 30th. You can pre-order signed copies right now on my Ko-fi. It's going to be the first link in the description of this video. But anyways, let's get started. This episode we decided to watch A Quiet Place Day 1 since it just went on to Paramount Plus. As we're recording this, I think it went on yesterday.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I check like daily all the streaming that we have.
Fair enough.
Well, all the streaming that your dad has.
Sponsored by.
Sponsored by Travis Kanapaux. Yes. So I saw that it went on. I told Cameron we need to watch it because we like watching new movies when they come out, especially on streaming because I could just like sit on my couch or in my bedroom and
quote-unquote horror movies.
Yeah.
I would consider this like a psychological thriller.
Really?
Yeah. Well, you don't... The things that come down from space aren't really like scary. / they're not meant to be scary throughout the entire movie because you're really just... it's a thriller because you're waiting on when's the next one gonna pop up? When's the next sound gonna trigger them and they're gonna show up? And then also, like, in her sleep sequence, the little jump scare. So,
well, I would just consider it like a sci-fi thriller.
Sci-fi thriller?
Yeah.
I think it's psychological. Only because it's like, you can't even scream. They're constantly watching other people die in front of them, and they can't even react. It's crazy.
I mean, they could react if they wanted.
I mean, they could, but they're gonna face the same fate that they just witnessed.
Okay, so for those that don't know, or if you've never watched the Quiet Place movies, this is the third one to come out. There was A Quiet Place, and then A Quiet Place Part 2, and those follow one family. But this one is a prequel. In the name of it, it says A Quiet Place Day 1, so you can easily assume that it's a prequel. And I really enjoyed it.
It was really good.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot more than
the other ones.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's way better. I'm gonna go ahead and skip ahead of you. Favorite character? The cat by far.
Oh my god.
I'm saying it right now. I don't know. They got the one silent cat in the world.
Dude, the whole time we were
Great
watching
actor.
the movie, every time like the cat was just like silent and something was happening, I'd be like, "Oh, our cat meow." Like our cat would meow. Our cat would be pissed off. She would be angry. She'd be like, "Come take me away." I'd like to mention as well that this is going to contain spoilers because this is the first like new movie we've done. The other movies we did, Freebirds and Beetlejuice. So
Yeah.
A 36-year-old movie and one that really, who's watching Freebirds?
Right.
Who gives a fuck about Freebirds?
This is the US Twitter.
Yeah. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's hop into the synopsis. When New York City comes under attack from an alien invasion, a woman and other survivors try to find a way to safety. They soon learn that they must remain absolutely silent as the mysterious creatures are drawn to the slightest sound. Would you say that's accurate?
I'm pretty sure that's accurate, yeah.
The director is Michael Sarnowski. It's starring Lupita Nyong'o, Joseph Quinn, and Alex Wolff.
And that lovely cat.
Yes, and the lovely cat who's half CGI.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. Did you know Alex Wolff is also the guy from Hereditary? I know you're not a fan of
I
Hereditary.
was gonna say, is it Dick Wolf's, like, cousin or someone?
So, he was part of the Naked Brothers band. I don't know if you ever saw them on Nickelodeon. I didn't know that.
No.
But he's part of the Naked Brothers band. So, I just found that out when I was doing a little bit of research for, like, cast. He was the nurse.
Oh.
He did not look like his, just regular. Because he was also in, Oppenheimer. I was like,
okay.
the movie with the bomb. He was also in Oppenheimer. I don't know if he had many speaking lines, or, like, if his role was a speaking role.
Mm-hmm.
But he was in it, and he just kind of looked regular. He kind of looked like the same guy.
We'll assume it was a speaking role, because that was all of Oppenheimer, was speaking. There was a lot of, what's it called in it?
Yeah, there was a lot of, like, background dialogue, and
Yeah.
one person says one line,
It's
and then...
a dialogue-driven movie.
Yeah, true. So, the ratings on IMDb vary very much from Rotten Tomatoes. On IMDb, it has a 6.4 out of 10. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 86%. I saw one review that was a 0.5 star.
Wow.
And the guy, I'm not even going to give his name, because it was such a dumb review. Like... okay, this may be an unpopular opinion. You tell me, Cameron, if it's a bad thing. If I don't finish something, this is as like a book reviewer, as a movie reviewer, anything like that. If I don't finish something, or at least get halfway through it, I'm not leaving a review. Because if I can't make it 30 minutes into the movie, then it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not going to leave a review that's negative and brings something down because it's not for me.
Yeah, unless it was like Beau's Afraid.
I never left a review for...
We never left a review, but we also stayed to the very end. We're suckers, and we stick to the end of stuff that we're just like, this is awful.
We'll have to visit Beau's Afraid after our... I think it's...
That might be the Halloween closer, because that one is truly terrifying.
Oh my god, we'll have to break it up into like 10 parts.
It's so... at least into 3.
Oh my god,
because there's
dude.
3
It's
hours.
3 different fucking movies!
Yeah, there's 3 movies. Anyways, we're getting way off topic.
No, it's fine. It's fine, because we're talking about reviews right now.
Yeah.
We're talking about reviews. So, it kind of grinds my gears. I've never had anybody... Well, that's a lie. I've had one person who... Like, here's my whole thing. If you like science fiction, you only watch or read science fiction, you may not like a fantasy movie or book. Why pick up a random fantasy book if you know that all you like is sci-fi?
Yeah.
You're setting yourself up to have a bad time.
So what was this half-star review?
It was just, I got up and left after 30 minutes. The movie was so bad.
What?
Yeah.
Man, 30 minutes... We even did a time check at 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because we were like, man, how much is left of this movie? That is insane that they got up at 30 minutes.
Yeah, like the movie was... We'll get into it.
It's very fast-paced.
Yes, it is very fast-paced.
For those first 30 minutes is a very fast-paced movie, and it keeps it going and going and going, and it's riding that momentum the entire... I wouldn't say the entire movie, because about halfway through it starts to slow up, but then it keeps going.
Yeah, and we'll get into that.
Instead of being like action, it's more...
emotional.
Yeah, it's more
begins, there's a switch from action to emotional, hard-hitting moments.
Yeah, well-written drama.
Yes, entirely. And one thing that I do love about these movies, I do want to make a critique that this is not a unique opinion, right? Not at all. John Krasinski's character, and I haven't watched these movies in a long time, the first and the second movie in this trilogy, he gets the wife pregnant. And it's, I don't know, I'm pretty sure it's like 6 years into this fucking bullshit that's going on. He gets her pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And they fucking steal from the pharmacy all the time. You mean to tell me you couldn't grab some fucking condoms? That's
Too loud.
that's my whole fucking thing. But childbirth isn't.
Right.
Are they soaking like Mormons? Like, I don't need the answer to this, but, like...
It was to replace the daughter from the first movie. Remember, she gets snatched up, and then they replaced her.
I'm pretty sure she's already pregnant when that happens.
Oh.
I'm, like, halfway sure. I'm pretty sure in the first movie, because I've only seen, like, the second movie one time ever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it's in the first movie where she, like, has the baby, and then the baby's screaming, and they have to, like, put it underneath the floorboards.
Yeah.
In-fucking-sane. You mean to tell me in that whole fucking town you can't find one fucking rubber? That's insanity. That's fucking insanity.
They have expiration dates.
I know they have expiration dates.
And then 6 years later?
Oh, shit.
Dun.
Pull-out game
Bwomp,
week.
whoop.
Which, I know that's not a form of birth control, but fuck, man. I don't know if I could be having sex knowing that I could get pregnant.
An apocalyptic baby?
Well, here's the thing.
Post-apocalyptic.
I'm all for, like, you gotta bring back the human race, right? But that's just a step too far. It takes me so out of the movie because I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Like, first of all, you don't give a fuck about your wife.
Right.
Because what is this fucking Midsummer where they're like, at the same time? Like, they all scream at each other's faces. Like, what the fuck is this? She can't fucking... Childbirth is the most painful thing that a person can go through. And you expect her to be like, quiet, cutesy, very demure, very mindful.
Dainty.
You're putting, not only... He doesn't give a fuck about himself. So let's just put that out there. You're putting your children at risk. Your alive children. Your wife. And that fucking newborn. Because that's all these fucking people give a shit about. Is the newborn. So... it takes me out of the movie every single time. Every single time I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
Like, logistically, you suck.
Yeah, in every sense of the fucking word, you suck. But I really did enjoy this one. I really did. I really did. And I did write a play-by-play of the movie. So, if you want to avoid spoilers, now is the time to get off of this video. But if you get mad about the spoilers, please remember it's quite literally called Cinema Spoilers. So the movie opens on New York skyline, and the words appear that say that New York, typically with the hustle and bustle of New York, is typically 90 decibels. And you told me that you knew about decibels.
Oh, yeah, only because on a podcast, they had a
decibel reader?
A decibel reader, and they hit 97 decibels in a arena of 5,000 people. So, yelling, so... That's loud!
Yeah, but that seems like... I totally get how, like, New York City would be that loud, because it's just so much...
and it's a grid.
It's layered. Yes, you made that point while we were watching the movie.
It's a grid, so all the sound just kind of travels.
Yeah.
Sound travels in waves, and down a grid, it's perfect just to bounce around off of building to building to building to building and keep going. So.
Yeah. So, like, I could see it because it's very layered. I would assume that it's more than an arena of 5,000 people. That's all I'm saying. That's my whole thing. So then we see Sam, who is the youngest woman in this group by far. She's probably about 40 years younger than the rest of these people in this group. And she decides to share her poetry. And it's very funny. She talks about how everything is shit. How one of the other members of group shits his pants. You know, ton of stuff about shitting. Everything is shitty. And, it's revealed that she has cancer and that she's in hospice, and that's why she's in this group of really old people. Ruben works for the hospice center as a nurse, and he is another young person there. But it's obvious that he's running the group. He's saying, you know, do you want to share today? Are you having a good time? What have you? He's moving the conversation along. So he asks Sam after group is finished if she wants to go into the city to see a show. And she's like, no, I'm good. And he's like, but it's been a while since you've gone to the city to see a show. And she's like, can we get pizza after? And he's like, we had pizza last night. She said, did you eat it? And he goes, no. So you didn't have pizza last night. Let's get pizza in the city. So she finally, decides. He says yes, so she decides to go. So she goes to her room, she puts on a new fentanyl patch, and then she leashes up her cat. And she gets on the bus to go to the city. It's actually a marionette show. It is not like a movie or like a...
Yeah, she gets off the bus and is like, it's a puppet show.
Yeah,
He's like, well, no, it's a marionette show. It's different.
Yeah, and she's like, you lied to me. And he's like, no.
He said... You could have checked the schedule yourself, too.
Yeah.
He blamed it on her. He goes, you could have checked it.
You could have checked the schedule yourself. And then he turns around and he goes, yeah, I did trick you.
Yeah, I did trick you.
Mm-hmm. So, the puppet is actually kind of cool. There's a few kids in the crowd as well. So the camera zooms in a few times on, the children's face as they're watching this puppet just, prance around. And the puppet blows up a balloon. And then, the kids are like, no fucking way! And then the balloon pops. And Sam is like, she, for whatever reason, needs to leave the theater. She's a little overwhelmed. So she goes to a bodega to get something to eat. And at the bodega, there's a cat that looks like the same cat that she has, except for this one has spots of orange instead of spots of black. And the bodega clerk tells her, no cats allowed. And the cat is right next to him.
On the counter.
Yes, on the counter.
As she's holding her cat.
Yeah. So, she's holding the cat, and she's like, it's a service cat. And he's like, whatever. He's just like, whatever.
And it did have a vest on, too, so
yes.
it probably was a service cat.
Yeah. So then she goes back to the bus after she pays and gets her whatever the hell she got. And Ruben is on the phone, and he, gets off the phone, and he's like, we have to get back on the bus. And she's like, what about pizza? And he's like, well, we have to get back on the bus. There's something going on in the city. And she's like, but what about the pizza? and he's like, we'll get pizza some other time. We'll order in. And she's like, no! And then she gets back on the bus, and she's sitting down with her cat, and she's, the first one to get on the bus, obviously, because she's younger.
And all the other geriatrics are in the theater still watching the marionette show.
Yes.
They just happen to have met outside the show.
Yeah. So, the older folks get on the bus, and they're sitting at the back of the bus, and they're, watching from the emergency door, and you hear explosions, and you start to see these, comet-like things falling from the sky. And those are the creatures, obviously, they're the alien creatures, but...
The aliens.
But they don't know what it is. So they're like, what the fuck? And then there's an explosion that hits right outside the bus. So all of the windows are blown open, and Sam is she's just trying to find her way, as the dust is insane. It looks like the Dust Bowl. Yeah. For real, it looks like the Dust Bowl. Someone grabs her. Did you notice that? That there was a person that grabbed her and led her a different way?
Yeah, there was a few people that just kind of grabbed her and was leading her around. She just kind of kept going along with them, which is not like her character for the rest of any of the other part of the movie.
No.
She is her own, independent person, And only in this time, she's like, yeah, I guess I'll go with you.
Yeah, so as the dust is kind of settling and people are starting to, like, figure out, like, something's very wrong, there's, like, I'm sure some people think that this is a terrorist attack or something like that, you know, but every time they make a noise, they're getting snatched. So, Sam realizes very quickly, like, I need to shut the fuck up. So, she's, like, trying very, very, very hard to be quiet. But then she gets hit by an ambulance.
Yeah.
So she wakes up, and a hand covers her mouth, and the person shows her that she needs to be quiet. They don't tell her, obviously, because that would be making noise, but they show her that she needs to be quiet. And they're all in the theater where the marionette show was, and it looks like a refugee camp. There are a ton of people there,
way more than earlier.
Yeah.
Everything inside is like, it doesn't look like the show house anymore.
Yeah.
There's just everybody bandaged up and...
Yeah. And so she sees Ruben, because they're showing her, like, all the different areas, and she sees Ruben and her cat. So she's reunited with her cat. And then helicopters fly overhead, and they're giving them instructions. They're like, do not talk, shelter in place, stay as silent as possible. And that triggers the creatures, and they are running.
And they're following the helicopter announcements.
It's like packs of creatures running after it. Her cat runs off. She chases it, and she ends up in the lobby of the theater, and a creature breaks through the wall. But just as the tension is about to break, another helicopter flies overhead with another message.
Yup.
So she's saved there. Then she goes to the bathroom and she starts cleaning off all the dust because she is covered in dust. And someone is listening with a headset on to the radio that's saying, like, this place is safe, this place isn't, giving out coordinates, saying don't go on the bridges, you will get hurt if you go on the bridges. So this person's just writing down all the information. And they are interrupted by jets dropping bombs on the bridges. So that was crazy.
Yeah.
And the man that was with Sam when she woke up, so they go to the rooftop and they're looking at this happening, and there's a man who's just screaming his fucking head off. And the man that was with Sam when she woke up, who put his hand on her mouth to keep her quiet, is trying to get him to stop. And there's a little kid watching, and he's trying to get him to stop. He's like, shh, look at what you're doing, shush, shush. And he doesn't shut up. And he goes to, like, move his hand a little bit, and he starts screaming, and so he hits his head against the wall, and the guy dies. But it's like, that's what you get, you know?
For real.
That's what you get.
Putting the whole refugee camp in danger. Because they just had to run up to the roof.
Yeah, so then Sam and Ruben are sitting across from each other, and Sam writes a note to Ruben, and it says, I'm going to Harlem to go get pizza. And she says, I'm actually going. And Ruben's like, no, don't go. And the scene changes when the electricity cuts off and the backup generator starts to...
kick on.
Yeah, it kicks on. And so Ruben is, like, running to turn it off because it was the loudest fucking generator you've ever heard in your entire life.
Well, and there's nothing else.
Yeah, there's nothing else on besides this generator, so it's like, obviously that's gonna bring people who have nefarious intentions, it's gonna bring these creatures, it's just not a good time. So he gets the valve, but then his shirt gets caught on a piece of metal, and it rips really loud, and he gets snatched by the creature, and he dies. So I did not think that was going to happen.
Me neither.
I thought Ruben may be an important part.
Nah, he got snatched up so quick.
Yeah, so she takes her cat, and she goes to the bodega that she went to before. She takes a flashlight, she takes a drink, and she takes, like, some little, like, bar. Like, she doesn't...
yeah, it was like a candy bar or
yeah,
something like that.
and cat food, that's it.
Yeah.
And, so then she goes and she settles down at this water fountain because she figures, like, okay, the water is going to be loud enough for me to open this can of cat food. And she sees 2 children, so she gives them the candy bar. Helicopters fly overhead to announce that there are boat evacuations and that it's a mandatory evacuation, and to make your way south to get to this boat point. So she tells the children to go south, and she starts to go north. She's like, man, fuck this noise.
Literally.
And then Cameron brings it up. He goes, this is a grid system. You're going to hear them marching. The camera pans out, and there's like thousands of people walking through these streets. And it's like the creatures fucking planned it. Like,
yeah. They were giving out the announcements like, hey, go south. Because there were people coming in from other blocks to merge into this one just lane of traffic of people.
Yes, dude, it was fucking crazy.
It's like, y'all are idiots. Spread out.
So, Sam ends up hiding underneath a car, and the kitty runs off.
Yeah, after they were attacked.
Yeah. So after they're attacked, Sam hides underneath the car, and the kitty runs off. And some fucking man grabs her leg and is like, help me! Help me! Help me! And she's like, shut the fuck up. And he gets snatched by the creature. So, no fucking big deal. But her ankle gets pinned under the car for a minute. She finally gets it out, and she's walking with a limp because she hurt her ankle. She finds out that the kitty is okay, but the CGI of this cat ends up walking around and chasing a rat. And then it finds Doja Cat's boyfriend in an alley because... Well, hold on.
That's also funny.
Yeah. So, the subways are flooded at this point. So, he, like, pops up out of fucking nowhere in this water. And he's like, and the cat sees him and he sees the cat. And the cat leads him back to Sam. So, that's great. They're now reunited. Or, they're united. It starts to rain, so they use that opportunity to talk, and they find out that his name is Eric, and she tells him, you need to evacuate, you need to get the fuck out of here, like, you need to go south, and she tells him, like, stop following me, because he's been following her this whole time until it started raining, and he tells her that he's scared and he doesn't want to die there, so she takes him to her apartment, and he has to kick the door down, so they have to wait for thunder to crash down for the noise to not be too much. So, then they get in, and she starts to look for her medication, and asks Eric about his family. He tells her that his family's far away, and that he came here for law school, and she tells him again that he needs to evacuate. And she tells him that she's just gonna get Patsy's in Harlem. And Eric desperately wants to go with her. He's like, can we get pizza together?
He just wanted companionship.
Yeah. So, he reads a poem that she wrote about her cancer, and they scream as the thunder claps. They end up at a bookstore after that, and he saved her notebook that the poem was from. And she ends up accidentally dropping a book. So they run, and it's the scene from the trailer where they end up in that, office building, and all of the creatures are, like, getting from each end of the glass. And it's actually a very, very cool scene, but it's the same one from the trailer. And he throws something through a car window. Once they get out of that building, he throws something through a car window to throw the creatures off their trail. And they enter the stairway of a subway station, and they are forced deeper into the subway because one of the creatures is, like, slowly walking down the stairs. So they end up mostly submerged in the water, and he starts to have a panic attack in the water, and it keeps rising, and the creature's following them, and they swim away as fast as possible. And because they can't swim and they can't survive in water, the creature ends up dying. and they end up in a church because the ceiling of the subway is the flooring of the church. So they end up in that sanctuary. And so Sam finally ends up being able to like lay down and calm down because remember, she has cancer and she hasn't had any of her meds in the last 2 days and she feels awful. So he goes and he asks her, "What are your meds? I'm going to go find them." So he goes to the pharmacy, and of course the cat follows him to the pharmacy, and he ends up getting the fentanyl patches so that way she can at least be in a little bit less pain. And then, for whatever reason, the cat decides that it's going to climb a very, very, very high beam. And so he has to, like, get the cat down, and he comes face to face with the creature. Yeah, Creature-see.
You just...
Cameron freaked out when I said Creature-see. But anyway, like the creature's face, it sort of looks like the creatures from Stranger Things, where it has a triangular or an angular shaped face that opens up. But it opens up into giant holes, which I can only assume are its ears because it doesn't have any eyes. And it got very close to Eric. So it was a weird angle, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, he does get back to the church, and he helps her apply the fentanyl patch, and he asks her about the piano, because that's something that he saw in her apartment. And she tells him, "My father played beautiful piano," and they talk about pizza. And my favorite quote in the entire movie, because she says something that leads up to this about, like, dying. She's like, because she reveals that her dad died of cancer, but she says he died just like I am. And he says, "Not until we get pizza." And she says, "Not until we get pizza." So they end up going to Patsy's the next day, but it's completely destroyed. So Eric takes Sam to the piano bar where her dad played. She plugs her iPod into the speaker, and by the way, I really do love how they maintained what time this movie was set in, because she has really old wired Apple headphones. They're not the ones that like fit smoothly into your ear, that are sort of ergonomic to your body. They're the ones that look like little plates.
Yeah.
The most painful things you've ever put near your ear. That's what they look like. So anyway, she plugs her iPod into the little speaker and it starts to charge. And Eric goes to find pizza. He finds pizza. It's like a $1 pizza place. And so he writes Patsy's on the box. And they go to eat it. And they make like the worst faces because it's first of all,
3-day-old pizza.
Yeah, 3-day-old pizza. It probably was not that good to begin with. And so Eric starts to do card tricks, and they see that the boat is leaving. So she gives him her sweater, she gives him the cat, and she starts breaking car windows so that he can leave. Like, they realize that there's not much time, the boat's already leaving, he needs to go, so she gives him all of that stuff. And he kicks a can and narrowly escapes by jumping into the water. So it all happens in a pretty quick succession. Like, they see that the boat's leaving, so they run down to the harbor, and she's like, "Okay, take care of the cat." And then she starts breaking car windows, and he's running as fast as he can. The subtitles then show that the cat's name is Frodo, because he makes it to the boat. Like, he jumps in the water, and the creatures can't follow him. And so he makes it to the boat, and it says, "Frodo meows." For the first time in the whole fucking movie, this cat meows.
Right at the end of the movie.
Right at the end. So, then Sam goes to Patsy's. And she looks at a photo, and by the way, the blue filter that's on the movie the entire time is now gone. It's now like a nice yellow filter where it looks lively. It looks like a nice city.
So you survived.
There's no apocalyptic filter on the movie anymore. So she goes to Patsy's and she looks at this photo. And it's her as a little kid and her dad. And it's revealed that the sweater that she was wearing the whole movie that she gave to Eric was actually her dad's sweater. Whew. And while he's drying off on the boat, Eric finds a note from Sam. And it's basically like,
take care of my cat.
Yeah, take care of my cat. Don't feed him too much. He doesn't like getting belly scratches, so don't do that. Thank you for giving me a fun time. And then it goes back to Sam. And she's listening to music with her headphones. And she plugs her iPod into the speaker. And it starts to play a song. And you see a creature land behind her. And then the screen cuts to black.
Roll credits.
Yep. Roll credits. That was a good movie, though. I really enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. And I think it was quite refreshing compared to the other A Quiet Place movies. Because in some of the other A Quiet Place movies, it's silent for a majority of the beginning of the movie. The beginning and middle. Like, there's not a ton of noise. The noise comes from, like, the wind or whatever.
Yeah. It's completely silent.
But there's a crescendo and a decrescendo.
Yeah.
Or the decrescendo and then a crescendo. There's a beginning, middle, and end to this movie. And I really enjoyed that. I think it's really hard if you're not a very big fan of the actors, like Emily Blunt and John Krasinski, to really get into the first movie. But once you get into it, I found that, like, it's one of those that has a cult following. And I understand why. I think it's a great movie. Cinematically, it's shot very well. There are very beautiful scenes and shots in it. And I think that it has a great score. It has a great premise and everything. But it is difficult to get into. And that's one of my 2 complaints about the movie. Anyway.
That's why the guy left 30 minutes in.
No. That was about this one. Day 1.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not the other ones.
No, I didn't look for the other ones because we weren't talking really about them. But I don't know if I would recommend. Sometimes people are like, watch the prequel before the sequel or before the original. What would you think?
Definitely prequel before the main movies.
Yeah. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Because at least it explains a little bit. At the end of the day, there's a lot left to question.
Yeah,
in these
either
movies.
way, there's still a lot to question.
But I found that it was really, really difficult to get into A Quiet Place, I've mentioned, because it's very quiet. And, of course, if you don't have any, like, subtitles, because one of the kids speaks ASL.
Yeah.
So, like, they're able to communicate through sign language. But I found that there were so many questions at the beginning. Like, why are you quiet? Like, yes, one of the kids is deaf. And they speak ASL. But why is the rest of the family quiet? It's just a lot of questions.
What's
that can be.
On?
And I think it would be, as somebody that's watched all 3 movies, I think it would just be good to watch the prequel before.
Yeah.
There are some movies, though, where it's like, don't you dare touch that prequel before you watch the other ones.
You'll spoil everything.
Yeah, cinema spoilers.
Yeah, but in this case,
yeah,
it works out a lot better.
Yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Cinema Spoilers. Maybe you've noticed, maybe you haven't, but this is a very big event that we're doing to celebrate the release of my book, Double Feature, which I will be reading the synopsis right now. A trip to the movies turns feral when 10 individuals are trapped within the auditoriums. An apocalypse caused by corporate greed leaves 6 children, 2 theater workers, a couple, and a mortician scrambling to figure out how to survive off stale popcorn and candy bars. How much of the world is left? What can be done to prolong their lives? Why are things so eerie within the concrete walls of the picture house? Find out in Double Feature, which will be released on October 30th, 2024. Right now, you can look on my Ko-fi as well and see if there are any double feature blankets available. They are hand crocheted by me, and I think they're so cute. They look like little popcorn buckets. They're throw blankets. So go check it out, especially if you liked this episode. Be sure to like and subscribe as well, and you'll see us tomorrow. Bye-bye.